What's going on, everyone? This is Devin from Anyone Outdoors. Today I wanted to talk about terminology, clarifying some terms, and specifically, the term bushcraft. Where exactly did this term come from? Was there a predecessor to it? When we go out for an outing, are we bushcrafting? Are we practicing survival? What exactly are we doing here? At least this was sort of a murky issue for me, at least. So I guess we could cite three specific works that were, as far as I can tell, pretty influential. So the first book we'll go over was penned by George Washington Sears, also called Nessmuk. He wrote a book called Woodcraft and Camping sometime in the 1880s, okay? We also have Horace Kephart, who wrote the book of Camping and Woodcraft. He wrote a number of works between 1906 to 1923. And notice the term woodcraft shows up in both of these titles. Now, as far as I can tell, the term woodcraft really refers to the activity of recreational camping with minimal gear. I believe these works may have been a reaction to having repeatedly observed, an excessive amount of gear being taken out on outings and overland adventures. But nonetheless, woodcraft seemed to have been the term. Now, if we jump up to Morse Kahansky, the Canadian woodsman, he wrote a couple of books, well, more than a couple, but we'll just cite two here. Northern Bushcraft, written in 1987, and then another book simply titled Bushcraft in 1988. He innovated the idea of the super shelter, which I won't get into right now. It's possible that, it was at this point, maybe the idea of survival and bushcraft, formerly known as woodcraft, may have started to kind of overlap and get pretty murky. There may have been a book we could put in between the work of Kephart and Kahansky, and that was the U.S. Army Survival Manual, FM 21-76, written in 1957, if I'm not mistaken. I got to turn my burner off for my lunch here. I'm afraid it's starting to burn. But because in the field manual, you would see things like debris huts, water collection methods, trapping, snaring, fishing. And just as an aside, both Nessmuk and Kephart, they also wrote extensively about hunting and fishing, but they wrote about hunting and fishing more as more within the terms of adding to the experience of the outdoor outing, not so much from a survival perspective, because it was sort of assumed, at least within those two authors, that for any given outing you were going to bring enough food to sustain yourself. So that's as much clarity as I feel like I can offer. What I don't want to happen with this channel is it to sort of degenerate into my own little content creator soapbox. What I could say, just sort of as a summary, is that from the late 1800s to like maybe the 1930s or 40s, the term woodcraft was the term, and it was used within the paradigm of recreational camping in an attempt to maybe streamline gear, right? Kahansky, the guy that created the super shelter, it's possible that it was around that time, the 80s and 90s, that bushcraft, of course that was the first time bushcraft really surfaced, but bushcraft, survival, and recreational camping really all kind of got mushed together in this really murky sort of paradigm, I guess you could say. The reason I bring all this up is when we scroll through YouTube or something like that, and we see bushcraft videos, you see a lot of extreme winter videos where it'll say bushcraft, survival, maybe it'll say something like no blanket, no tent, something like this. It's being framed as survival But I believe if we go back to the original, Nessmuk and Kephart definition, I think it's not unreasonable to say that most of the content that we're seeing is largely still recreational camping. Even if they're supplementing food from the landscape, which we do occasionally see on some videos, they have probably still brought enough food to survive. And while it may appear that this is survival, they're really just supplementing from the landscape, as far as I can tell. So I don't post this as a call out to any other content creators or anything like that, but we as viewers and people that are interested in exploring this bushcraft outdoor thing, it can be a little confusing exactly what we're doing. So I think it's safe to say that for the most part, what we're doing is recreational camping. You know, um, I get that there's a lot of overlap in the activities, but just because you've put up a debris hut doesn't make it survival. Um, whether you have a full tent, a floorless tent, or a debris hut, if you didn't like just wake up and regain consciousness in the middle of the woods, you planned this trip. So I'm going to go ahead and have some lunch here out in the woods, and I always appreciate it whenever you guys stop by and stick around for the next video. See ya.